Hello everybody. Wish you all I hope you are doing well. Let's start. We'll all talk about the genius feat. Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo di Serpuro da Vinci, Italian, Leonardo da Vinci, was an encyclopedia belonging to the Renaissance, where he was a painter, engineer, botanist, cartographer, geologist, musician, sculptor, architect and Italian scientist popular. And because he was a genius man with a global talent in the Renaissance, he personified the spirit of his era completely, which led to the discovery of the largest models of expression in various fields of art and knowledge. He is considered one of the greatest geniuses of mankind. Perhaps his genius, which distinguished him more than any other figure, was the ideal human incarnation of the Renaissance. Leonardo has often been described as a symbol of a Renaissance man, a man with a wild curiosity and a feverish creative imagination. Leonardo da Vinci was a very rare case, and by the nature of his miracle it is possible to say this nature was based not only on the beauty of a body that gave it very well to him, but also many of the virtues that still make him a teacher. He was very skilled in mathematics, and worked in sculpture and outperformed all others. He had great inventions, but he didn't color many of them because he was, as it were said, never satisfied with himself, and therefore his works were rare. He was an eloquent orator, a rare and skilled chant in strange inventions, but himself never calmed down, but always produced new things with his genius. Leonardo da Vinci was born on April 15, 1452, at 3 o'clock at night, on a farm about 3 kilometers from the city between Angiano and Valdagnano. When Leonardo was born, he was completely named, in Italian, Leonardo di Serpuro da Vinci, which means Leonardo, son of Piero, from Vinci. More than 500,000 visitors a year come to visit the Leonardo Museum in his hometown. Leonardo was the eldest son of the 25th notary, and named the Mystery of Piero da Vinci, for a wealthy family, and for a lower-class woman named Catherine, as a result of an illegal relationship between the parents. He noticed the news of the birth of his first granddaughter, his grandfather Antonio, Piero's father, and was also documented in an early 14th century documentary book that was used as a set of family memories, 9, in which he reads, "My grandson, son of Piero's secret, was born in a day Saturday, April 15th at 3 p.m. 22:30 today. His name was Leonardo, and baptized by priest Piero Bartolomeo da Vinci, in the presence of Father Nani, Mio Tonino, Pier di Malvodo, Nani di Vinco, German Argo di Giovanni, Miss Lisa di Domenico di Breton, Miss Antonia Giuliano, Miss Nicolosa del Barna, Miss Maria, daughter of Nani di Vinco, Miss Peppa di Brefconi." Leonardo's birthplace is not mentioned in the record, which is considered the house that the Piero secret family, along with the farmer, took in the town of Angiano, where Leonardo's mother lives. He was baptized near the Church of the Holy Cross at Santa Croce, but both the father and mother did not attend, as they were unmarried. For Peru, Leonardo's father, the wedding ceremony was well prepared, while regarding Catherine, in 1453 CE, her husband, who willingly accepted his risky situation, was tried after she found a farmer from Campo Zeppi near Vinci, and called Peru del Vaca from Vinci, and is said, famously, to Eletta Cabriga as perhaps a mercenary like Brother Andrea. Meanwhile, in 1452 CE, the Peruvian father married Elvira di Giovanni Amadore, who did not have a child. Despite his illegal status, he witnessed the happy welcome of the child from his grandfather's record, and also from his presence at the family home in Vinci. This is what can be read in the statement of the real estate registry in Vinci for the year 1457 AD, which was written by grandfather Antonio. This statement indicates that grandfather Antonio had 85 years, and was living in the diocese, parish, of Santa Croce. He married Lucia, who was 64 and had 2 children, Francesco and Peru, and who was 30 years old, and married Nelpera, and was 21 years old, and lived with them son Leonardo, son of Peru, and a legitimate child from him and his mother Catherine, who became a woman Deca Taberta from the town of Vecca in Vinci. Father Alpera's 28-year-old father died in 1464 when the family lived in Florence, and was buried in San Biagio. He married Serpuro from 3 others. The second is called Francesca di Ser Giuliano Lanridini, who was 15 years old. He married in 1464 CE, and died without giving birth, and the third was called Margherita di Francesco di Jacopo Guglielmo Margherita di Francesco di Jacopo di Guglielmo, and in 14 he married her. She finally gave birth to 6 children, and 6 others from the fourth and final marriage. Meanwhile, Leonardo was 12 years old among brothers and sisters, who were all younger than him. The latter was born when Leonardo was 46 years old, and his relationship with them was not firm, but they caused him a lot of problems after his father died due to the dispute about inheritance. Ser Piero was already working in Florence in the year 1462 AD, and is said to have worked for Vasari, and returned with his family, and with him the little Leonardo. Father Piero showed his friend Andrea del Verrocchio some drawings for this project, which may persuade the teacher to take Leonardo to work with him in his workshop. In fact, it was unlikely that vocational training would start from the age of 10, which made him treat Leonardo Verrocchio reference player. Leonardo is believed to have remained in the countryside in his grandparents' home, where he was educated, intermittent, irregular and without any depth, under the auspices of his grandfather Antonio, his uncle, Francesco and the priest Piero who baptized him. The boy learned to write from the left and vice versa, upside down, in a way very similar to regular writing. Vasari remembered how the boy had started a lot of things in school and then left him, and also remembered his inability to work in the legal profession as the father decided to teach him the abacus, although he faced many doubts and difficulties with the teacher who was teaching him, but that was better than confusing him. His 96-year-old grandfather died in 1468 AD, and he transferred his inheritance to Leonardo, to grandmother Lucia and father Piero, to the new stepmother Francesca Lanfredini, and to the uncles Francesco and Alessandro. The following year, the father's family, who became notary for Signorio Fiorentina, along with his uncle Francesco's family, who joined the art of silk art della Seta, lived in a house in Florence that was demolished in the 16th century and is now located on Gondi Street, next to Signorio Square. He is considered an illegitimate son of a rich family. His father is the notary and his mother is a farmer who divorced from her husband shortly after the birth of her child, which made him miss the mother's tenderness in his life. In the middle of the 14th century his family settled in Florence and Leonardo enrolled in the schools of Florence, where he received the best that this wonderful city of science and art could offer. Florence was the main center of science and art within Italy. Leonardo was achieving an impressive and remarkable social position, as he was handsome, tactful and able to play with skill as well as a wonderful ability to persuade. Around the year 1466 AD, Leonardo joined an art operator owned by Andrea del Verrocchio, who was the artist of that era in drawing and sculpting, which enabled Leonardo to get first-hand knowledge of this profession and its activities from drawing to sculpture. In the year 1472 AD he became a member of the Florence Handbook of Painters, and in the year 1476 AD people continued to view him as an assistant Verrocchio, where he was assisting him in his tasks entrusted to him, including the painting Christ's Baptism, where he assisted Verrocchio by drawing the small angel perched on his knees from left 1470 Uffizi, Florence. In 1478 AD, Leonardo gained independence with his profession and became a teacher in itself. His first work was a mural painting of the old palace church, or as it is called in Italian, chapel of the Palazzo Vecchio, which was not completed. And his first important work was the Reverence of Magi, the Adoration of the Magi, which he began in 1481 AD and left without finishing, which was for the convent of the nuns of Saint Scopito Donato, Florence. This led him to Venice in March 1500 AD. The presence of the Florentine artist in Serenissima is confirmed by Luca Boscelli, who may have accompanied him to the city to prepare together a book of divine thesis, which is illustrated with drawings that may have been derived from Leonardo's models. Vasari did not mention the trip, perhaps because it is related to the activity of an engineer and mathematician rather than technical disciplines. Here he was assigned to design some defense systems against the continuing threat from Turkey. Leonardo invented a movable dam, to be placed on the Isonzo and Vilpaco, which could lead to floods on the mainland's garrison of the enemy, as is the case. Also from Venice, he left quickly. Perhaps he drew or left some of his innovative studies on caricatures and strange faces in Venice, and his influence appears in some works, later produced in Venice, such as Giorgione Lallavecchia or the 12th Christ among the physicians residing in Venice. In addition, Leonardo possessed cardboard on the image of Isabella d'Este, which might be an example of pushing local artists to deepen their psychological profile and increase sensitivity to light effects. Leonardo was characterized, especially during the youth period, by focusing on the true description of the natural world, and this earned him a grant from some contributions works that came out from the Franco players such as Angel Raphael and Tobias, London, the National Museum, and in which realistic fish scales were presented with details of Leonardo. Despite this was not related to tasks not shared globally. The same applies to the Virgin Mary's painting with a baby and angels, Virgin of the Rocks, always in London, with a rocky top that mentions the landscape painting with a river. According to Vasari's evidence, also confirmed by modern criticism, Leonardo has depicted the angel in the foreground on the left and the magnificent landscape in the background, as well as the general arrangement of a style for mixing at least 3 hands of different characters, Verrocchio, a very talented student, and Leonardo himself. In this work, there are a few reasons for Leonardo's style that exceeded the limits of the teacher's teachings. The decoration based on many reasons. The focus on planned elements or expressions of faces, often depicted with a mysterious smile, and the new in this is the drawing of space and the unified atmosphere, as well as preliminary hints to gradient style. According to Vasari, Leonardo's skill in baptism led Verrocchio to devote himself to sculpting, as he always saw him confronting him. Indeed, modern criticism has excluded the unpublished work, considering it a flawed confirmation of the literary theme "the student beyond the teacher," taken from Aristotle. Leonardo's first works were dated between 1469 CE and the early 1970s, and even before baptism. In these debates, the artist demonstrates a total commitment to the common language of Foucault students, complicating the assigned studies. The painting of the young Mrs. Dreyfus, circa 1469 CE, the National Museum of Art, Washington, is the final finding of critics, who also in the past took the names of Verrocchio and Lorenzo di Credi. In fact, there was a stylistic convergence between them in the painting of Mrs. Garofano, circa 1473 CE, which is Biancothic, Monaco, in colors. Thin and almost transparent, the family gestures between the mother and the child were placed against a dark background as 2 windows opened onto the Flemish region, overlooking a bright view. The Verrocchio operative of contemporary evangelism arose from Uffizi, but the name of its author, disputed by critics for a long time, finally settled on the name Leonardo. The angel of the Annunciation, Gabriel, actually appears next to the king of the baptism, and there are 2 types of Leonardo's specific drawings: a study in the arms of the Church of Christ in Oxford, and a study of fabrics with the legs of the Virgin Mary in the Louvre, which refer specifically to the angel and the Virgin Mary respectively. Although Leonardo's character style has been formed, there are still reasons for Verrocchio, such as the altar table with the stems of a lion that closely indicate the tomb of Giovanni and Perude Medici. The panel contains a mistake. From the perspective, in the Virgin's right arm is too long. There is a defect that was hidden by taking a little view to the right of the work. The painting of Mrs. Garofano, 1475 AD-1480 AD, with evidence already indicates the rapid maturity of the artist's style, directed at a greater fusion between the various elements of the image, with more sensitive light and spotted transformations, and the Virgin appears from a dark room from a distant and fascinating scene that appears through 2 windows that have been forgotten in the background. From 1474 to 1478, portrait emerged as a woman of the wealthy bourgeois class in Florence. H shows more clearly the effect of Flemish art by sparkling hair and focusing on the light output of color, and it also shows a special feature in the atmosphere between the person and his first steps in the landscape, as well as a certain technique with fingertips to mix colors, especially in real skin. From January 1474 AD to the fall of 1478, Leonardo's work was not known, and this silence was strange, especially since Leonardo's profession was considered in the previous years directly to be finished, supported by a wealthy and influential father who kept him at least until 1480 AD, and thus he was able to help him in obtaining commission. Therefore, Leonardo was supposed to be hesitant in his early 20s about his future as he approached the world of science with the presence of geographer and astronomer Paolo del Pozzo Toscanelli, and it was perhaps an opportunity for him to study autopsy in hospital morgues, but he had to study physics and mechanics through direct experiences. On April 8, 1476, anonymous minutes were brought to knight officers and monasteries against certain people, among them Leonardo, on charges of homosexuality he practiced with 17-year-old Jacob Saltarelli of Vaxerca Street, next to Signorio Square. Although at that time in Florence there was some tolerance of homosexuality, the penalty for these cases was very strict, holding the adult sodomy and distorting the foot or hand of the youth. In addition to Leonardo, among the other defendants were the jeweler Bartolomeo di Pasquino and the tailor Pacino residing on Chimitori Street in Ersman Lake Healy, especially Leonardo Tornabuoni, who wore black clothing, the most expensive fabric, and belonged to high society, upper class. In fact, he was a young heir from a family with a very strong connection to the Medici family. A similar complaint was also filed in June of the same year for Tornabuoni's involvement, which would be in the interests of the defendants as the complaint was filed in the archive. All the defendants were released unless there were any other complaints on the matter. Show suspicion how Leonardo was at that time as in the Verrocchio player. On January 10, 1478 AD, he received the first public position, which is a blade of the St. Bernard Church in the Sonieri Palace, and the monasteries gave him 25 florins, but he did not start to work, as he pledged in 1483 AD to Dominic Ghirlandaio and then to Filippo Lippi that he would finish this work in 1485 AD. Blade 8, now in Uffizi. In this code, there's the expression Leonardska, meaning a mysterious smile for the lady, which confused some critics in the past, and then attributed it to Leonardo. At that time, Leonardo's desire to devote himself to painting had to be overshadowed, as was explained by a record that was partially mutilated and in which the artist mentioned that at the end of 1478 he began to draw two women, one of whom was known as Mrs. Penis, and today is found in Hermitage in St. Petersburg, which he mentioned bouquet in 1591 at the home of Matteo and Giovanni Potti, Florence. The oil painting by Leonardo da Vinci was very beautiful, drawing Mrs. Madonna with great ingenuity and great care, and the image of Christ as a child was very beautiful and wonderful. This description could also refer to the painting of Mrs. Iaravano. Now we done this first part. Wait for us in the second part about Leonardo da Vinci. Goodbye my friends.